Recount indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. Today I'm announcing the unsealing of...
I just shared a soundbite that was posted to social media 3 days ago that is from ABC News. I do not own the rights or privileges of this soundbite. I simply played it on my podcast as a reference point to pinpoint and show what Mr. Combs is allegedly being accused of and what his indictment entails. Mr. Combs is innocent until otherwise proven guilty. This platform of Conversation with the Modern Girl is just that, a conversation that I want to shine light on in reference to human trafficking, domestic violence, sexual abuse in this segment. Now, as you heard, the indictment of what he was indicted on, the racketeering conspiracy, the sex trafficking, the transportation of people for sexual pleasures. These are the things that he is faced with and have been indicted for and has recently been held in jail for until his court date. You know, when I first heard about human trafficking, it had to be about maybe 2014, 2013, somewhere in there. I was working in Alabama for the Department of Family and Children's Services, and I learned that Highway 20 was kind of considered a money train. A money train being that was a highway that could go from Georgia all the way to Texas, and you could just keep run. You could run it back either way, and you could get off on highways, you can get off on exits, and go to hotels, exchange sexual acts, leave, keep going, and leave without a trace. And so I was dumbfounded when I learned this because I had no idea this was going on. And so I made it my mission to try to shine a light on this for others to be aware of what was taking place so that he or she could understand and know about human trafficking as well. When I started Modern Girl Movement in 2014, my goal was to not only uplift and inspire women that was within our communities or to hear their stories, but it was also to educate. It was to educate and inform people of what was going on in the world around them and outside of their communities so that we could all be aware and that we could use our own individual selves and our mouthpiece to pass off information to educate others. So I had those uncomfortable conversations in reference to human trafficking, in reference to abuse, in reference to partner violence, in reference to HIV/AIDS, and so on. So those conversations that people don't often provide a platform for to openly discuss it or to provide resources for. So when I started Modern Girl, that was one objective that I had, that I wanted to do to make sure that I provide that information. So in hearing what has taken place with Mr. Combs, I just wanted to get on and just have the conversation about the victims. My concern is for the victims, not just the victims that was at the hand of Mr. Combs, but for the victims that are out there that are listening and they are looking and they are being triggered. He or she are being triggered by all this stuff that's taking place. There are some victims out there that not only was at the hands of Mr. Combs, but of people that may be in their family, people that they may have been involved with in relationships with partners, intimate partners, could have been dating them, could have been, this whole power and control over a victim. That's where my concern is, because seeing and hearing this, of course, brings up memories and triggers for those that have suffered some type of abuse, whether it's sexual, physical, whether it was being a survivor of human trafficking, whether you're still caught up in abusive relationship, domestic violence relationship, whatever. It shows that someone was brave enough to speak up against a very powerful person and tell their story despite what others may have thought or what labels may have been applied to them or how it may would have affected their life later on. She spoke up. And it shined a huge light on this subject matter. When all this took place, the first when Cassie first filed the lawsuit, and it was publicly displayed on the internet, I read it in great detail. I read it and I posted on my social media that domestic violence is an epidemic. And yet we don't address it until it happens to celebrities. And it wasn't a slight at any celebrity. It was the truth. We have a habit of jumping on the bandwagon of things and having all these comments and all this commentary behind whatever is the hot topic of this week, this month, this year. And we will say what we want to say, and we'll repost and we'll post things, and we'll have podcasts, we'll have shorts, YouTube shorts or whatever, talking about it to gain followers or to say whatever you need to say to ignite some type of conversation or attention to you. This is not that. This is what I have been pushing for years. And it's not about likes and listeners and followers. It's about whomever is listening to understand that you're seen. Whatever victim is out there that listens to Conversation with a Modern Girl, or whatever victims are out there that knows me personally or that have come in contact with me, this is for them to know that I see you. This conversation is to make you aware that your story matters, to make you aware that the monster does get captured, to let you know the giant can fall. It can. And I hope it gives encouragement to some people, because I know, like I said, it's very triggering. I'm trying to figure out how this goes. Anyway, it's very triggering to those that see and hear this. And of course, we're talking about everybody that was at the hands of Sean Combs and may have, endured, those that spoke up, those that haven't spoken up, those that have been victimized, that feel like they don't have the power to speak up and say what happened to them. All that is what my conversation is geared towards today. It's geared towards letting you know I see you. Did you know that in human trafficking, the majority of the victims of human trafficking are children? Children account for half of the victims in human trafficking. The average age of a child in human trafficking, a female child, is 12. 12 years old. 12 years old. That's the average age. Horrible. It's horrible. And, I'm not just saying it happens to women and children, but that is the largest amount of people that's in human trafficking. That's who they are. They're women and children. There are some boys, there are some men, but it is mainly women and children. The Republican Act of that was 9208, also known as the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003, was put in place. It was policies that was put in place to eliminate trafficking in persons, women, and children of Pacific. Later on, there was this House Bill 443. I don't know if you guys may remember seeing people with the 443 on their faces or whatever for about human trafficking. But that was the House bill enhancing detection of human trafficking act. That's what that was for. And so, there has been some attention brought to that, but it hasn't warranted this bigger scale of attention like it is now in the hip hop world. And let's go there. Let's go there to the hip hop world. I do not feel like human trafficking is a part or defines hip hop. I don't. Is human trafficking, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation part of hip hop? Yeah, it is. Let's be 100. When I say a part of hip hop, I say the culture. It says the culture. Even in some of the lyrics, we hear stuff about, bees and hoes and, this trick, this and that, she gonna do this and she'll suck you out. I mean, you hear this stuff. Let's be 100. Okay. We hear this stuff. And we even have female rappers that rap about doing sexual acts for money and bags and power and trips. We hear that. And I tell my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, that is modern day prostitution. Let's call a thing a thing. It is. Exchanging sex for favors is prostitution. I recently reread Diary of a Video Vixen by Karina Steffens. She was known as Superhead back in the day. That is not her name. I respect her and her story to identify her as Karina Steffens because that is her name. I reread her story because I read it first when I was in college because it was all the hype around it. But I wanted to go back and reread it here recently. I want to say it was probably about a month or so ago. I went back and reread it because when I read the lawsuit that Cassie filed against Sean Combs, it made me think of her. And I went back and I was like, I'm going to reread that again. And that Confessions of a Video Vixen is the name of the book. And it basically talks about her life. She grew up in but St. Thomas Islands, in poverty. She talks about her mom. She talks about her grandmother, her relationship with her grandmother versus her relationship with her mom, which was a very estranged, abusive relationship that she had with her mom. She talks about the abuse. She talks about drugs. She talks about rape. She talks about running away as a teenager and not really having a safe haven. She talked about using modeling and being a hip hop model and these videos and things of that sort to support herself. She also did strip as well for a while to support herself and her son. She did have a son. I listened to her story and it made me think back of how long ago that book came out, and then what's being played out now. And the scrutiny that she went through for telling her truth, for naming names. How brave of her to name names and talk about what happened to her. And people can say what they want to say about her. I respect her in the fact of being a woman first, a Black woman, two, being a survivor. I respect her in that aspect. And I respect her in telling her truth unapologetically. And there's a lesson in everything, and I really feel like she put her book out as a lesson to others to know what not to do. But I reference that. I go back to her book because I remember reading stories about the setup, the parties, the interactions, and how women are passed around like toys or properties at these parties. You're not even looked at as a human. You're looked at as a sex object. The sexiest gets the most attention, gets the most money. And that has kind of been the culture of things. You have these video girls that come, they're young, they're replaceable. When you get too old and they don't want you, they get other ones. Some of them had some standards and some of them was just that grimy and needed the money that bad. They did whatever to try to get on top and to stay on top. Hey, gotta respect the game. So I thought about that, and I thought about her story and how she talked about the things that happened to her, among other men in the industry. And it just makes you think about those that have not told their stories, that will never tell their stories, that may not have survived to tell their stories, or that may be living in fear so much and so they will never tell their stories about these big moguls that they worked with or was around in this limelight with, that they felt like they gave them an opportunity, a chance to be something that they could have not been on their own. They don't want to share what really happened. I heard Shine, who was the rapper that was with Bad Boy, and the incident that happened in '99 at the club, which Sean Combs, Shine, Jennifer Lopez was another person there that night. There was an exchange of gunfire. 2 people were shot. Shine took the rap basically, and we all kind of knew that, but no one openly said it. And he openly said it here recently in an interview that, you know, he was looking out and protecting his homeboy, which was Sean Combs at the time, only to turn around to be thrown under the bus and have to go to prison for something that he really didn't do. And he said that Sean Combs paid people to testify against him, and he had to eat that charge. Wicked. And how much freedom he probably felt to be able to openly say that on a public forum was probably so liberating. Because to sit in a prison cell for over half of your youth, knowing that you're taking the rap for something that you really didn't do, for someone that you was loyal to, that you thought was loyal to you, that wasn't. The people that have been involved with abusers, they get tangled up in that because they're with people that they consider love them, respect them, look out for them, they're down for them. They're involved because they feel like the same thing that I'll do for you, you do for me. And somewhere along the lines, that power and control shifts and somebody has the upper hand. Somebody always has the upper hand in a relationship. But there are people out there that will abuse that upper hand. And then you're at the mercy of that person. When you think about sexual abuse, you think about human trafficking, you think about domestic abuse, these people are not, these victims are not waking up in the morning and expecting something like this to be going on. This comes over time. You know, there's something to lure you in. There's something to give you a buy-in, whether you're coming out of poverty and you need money, whether you didn't come out of poverty, but you want some type of attention or you want some type of fame, whether you know, whatever it is you're chasing after, whatever it is you're chasing after, that you're needing or that you're lacking. And this abuser, this person who you consider friend, who you consider lover, who you consider, you know, someone of authority that may can help you, you're at their mercy because you want in. You want in. And this by any means necessary. And the next thing you know, you tricking. Next thing you know, this person is wooing you, love bombing you, bringing you along, showing you the ropes, giving you, you know what I'm saying, what you need to get to where you want. Things are happening. Things are happening for you. It doesn't have to be a high profile situation like Sean Combs and Cassidy, or him and his his ex-girlfriend that passed, Kim Port. It doesn't have to be a high profile situation like that. It can be someone that you met at the same job as you, and that person's giving you attention. Next thing you know, it's love. Next thing you know, you all are in a relationship and things are going good. And the next thing you know, there's a shift in that power and control. This person has something that I need from them, and I got to kind of conform to go along with it. And if it's someone that's an abuser, they're going to take that all the way, you know? And the next thing you know, you're caught up in a situation that you never thought you would be in. Just like domestic violence, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. You have the honeymoon phase when everything is wonderful, it's blossoming. He or she is good to you. They're loving on you. Things are good. This is going to work. Then this tension building, this little small things that may have pissed him or her off, little small things that may have made you uncomfortable, little small things that keep chipping away. And next thing you know, you have the big explosion. The big explosion is a big fight. Whatever takes place, it's happening. And the abuser comes back and is apologetic, love bombing you, gaslighting you, touching all those things that you reveal to them, that person emotionally about yourself. They're using those things, manipulating you, and you're caught right back up in it again. And it is a cycle. As a clinician, when we encounter people that are in domestic violence situations, our job is not to sway them to leave. Our job is not to, make them feel bad. Our job is to support and to educate and provide resources. That's it. It's up to you to decide when you want to step away, So when I hear about these situations, these victims that have been victims of sexual abuse, or that are still victims of sexual abuse, or survivors of human trafficking, or still involved in human trafficking or domestic abuse, I ache for them. I pray for them. I am concerned for them, because it's so many people, like I said before, that haven't been able to tell their stories. They haven't been able to be forthcoming about what is happening to them or that has happened to them. And I just wonder, as they're looking at this play out on TV and social media and on the news, how it's affecting them, because it's got to be triggering. And I want them to get the help they need. I want them to find a safe place that they can talk about this with someone else, to get the encouragement and the no judgment from those people, because it's a lot of people hurting out here, people. It's a lot of people that have been through some stuff that some people can't even form words to talk about. So this conversation that I'm having today, like I said, is to say I see you, and to say I empathize with you, and to say that I pray for you, and to say that I champion you for being a survivor. I champion you for having the willingness to want or need to walk away, or to identify that this isn't right. There are some people that are still tied up in that situation, that don't know what to do, and they feel completely at the mercy of that individual. And if you're listening to this podcast, I encourage you to seek help. The first line of help of defense is praying. It's God. It's the Lord. And on this podcast, if you're a follower, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and that's the first avenue I'm going to. There's no situation too hard, no circumstance. There's nothing too hard for God. There's no circumstance he can't pull you out of or deliver you out of, but you got to want to be delivered. You got to want to seek that thing out. You got to want to pray the hardest when it's hardest to pray. You got to want to be delivered. You got to want more. You got to be willing to let go of whatever it is that you think that these people or maybe or have that can help you or define your destiny. You got to be willing to let go of that. You got to be willing to take the risk and step out on faith. And it's scary. It is. It's scary. It's risky. It is. But when you trust the Lord wholeheartedly, when you trust him wholeheartedly, you got to have blind faith that regardless of what's going to happen, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust God, and he's going to see it to the end. I'm going to seek him. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep fasting. I'm going to keep believing. I'm going to keep hoping, because I know that my victory is coming. I used that in a podcast before, that no, regardless of what my story is and what's going on, I know my story is going to end in victory. It's not over until victory is ringing. It's not over until God says it's over. So as long as you got breath in your body, I don't care what you've been through. I don't care what happened. I don't care who did it. I don't care who said it. I don't care what the circumstance is. You can pull yourself out of that with the help of the Lord. You can be delivered. You can be set free. You can take that weight off from on you. The Lord will break that yoke upon your neck. The Lord, what he says, cast all your cares and burdens on him. Give it to the Lord. You can't keep carrying that mess. You can't keep carrying that abuse. You can't keep carrying that shame. You can't keep carrying that doubt. You can't keep carrying that fear. You can't keep carrying that mess. It don't belong to you. It doesn't belong to you. You may have been abused. Someone may have taken advantage. Someone may have given you drugs. You may have thought that someone was a friend, and you may have gone to the end of the wire with them, and they backstabbed you, or they put you in a compromising situation. It could have been a loved one, and you could have been just hanging out and chilling and doing your own thing, and y'all kicking and whatever, and something happened particularly to you, that you can't even muster up the voice or the words to explain to anyone that what happened to you is that you were violated in a space that you thought that you were safe. You may not be able to say that, but God knows. The Lord knows. He knows it all. He knows it all. There's no shame. There's no doubt. There's nothing too hard for him. He came that we may have life and that more abundantly. He came to set the captives free. You don't have to be bound with that. You don't have to tote that for the rest of your life. It's not your fault. No, don't listen to what the enemy tells you. It's not your fault. It's not anything that you could have done any different. It happened to you. It's part of your story. But guess what? Your story is going to end in victory. If you keep pushing, if you keep praying, if you keep fasting, if you keep staying on the right way, if you keep positive, if you keep getting up and coming back and going forth and moving forward and being positive, understanding, learning, thriving, surrounding yourself with positivity, keep moving, keep living, it's going to get better. It's going to get better, and it's going to get better, and it's going to get better. And you know what? You'll get strong enough to reach back and tell somebody else your story and encourage them that they can pull and draw from that and pull them own selves out of a situation that they may be in. I hope it's been very encouraging listening to me today. I want to share some reference points with you. And speaking about, hotlines that you can use if you find yourself in a situation and you do not have anyone else to talk to or turn to. There is a hotline for sexual assault. That hotline is 1-800-656-4673. It is a 24-hour line. You can call it any time of day or night. It's universal. Please utilize that number if you've been a victim of sexual assault. Human trafficking, there's a hotline, 1-888-373-7888, or you can text info to 233-733. There's also a line for domestic violence, 1-800-799-7233, or you can text begin to 8878. We can all do our part. Let this be a lesson. Let this be a lesson, not just about the victims, but let this be a lesson for those that may be in power, those that may have money, power, and respect. Let it be a lesson. I'm not laughing at Sean Combs. I'm not glorifying the situation by no means, because a decision can put anybody in prison. One wrong decision can put anybody in prison. One mess up, one screw up, it can all come crashing out. Everything that you have today can be gone tomorrow. Anybody can be in a situation. I'm not looking down at that situation in some type of huge victory in the wrong aspect of, oh, goody for him. I'm glad to have, not in that aspect at all. If you are accused of those things and they prove you as being guilty, you are going where you belong, and that is in the prison. I do agree with that. But what I'm saying is, I want everyone to learn from this. Any and everybody can learn from this situation, that when you get too far gone in something, you can always let go and turn around and go back in the right direction. If you need help because you got a habit or you got a sickness issue, you can seek help for that. But you got to first recognize that thing. Sometimes we get so big in life and so big or so caught up in our own mess, we don't even want to recognize. We don't even want to hear what somebody has to say that we need to correct. And when it gets like that and you're around people like that, you need to pray for them. And then you need to withdraw yourself from that situation. Don't feed the giant. Don't feed the giant. Don't party with me and be with me and see me doing wrong and don't correct me. What kind of friend is you? What kind of person are you? If I'm with you and I see you doing things morally wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. If I see you and you're mistreating someone and it's not going right, I'm going to say something about it. If you my friend, and my friends will tell you, I'll correct you. And the first thing I'm going to say is, I'm a friend, right? You love me, right? You right? We friends, right? Well, you love me, right? Okay, well then this is what I see. This is what I feel like you need to correct. And we should be able to say those things. We should be able to say those things, whether they accept it or not. We should be able to. If you got a friend that you know has been through something, or that is going through a domestic violence situation, going through a sexual abuse situation, you should be able to be a friend to say, hey, I don't know all the details, but let me give you this hotline number. Hey, I don't know all the details, but you know what? My house is open anytime you want to come. No questions asked. Be a friend. Don't pass judgment. Don't do that. Because we don't know when somebody might reach back and need that honest to God help. And then don't turn around and talk about them. That's another thing that we have a habit of doing. Someone can come to you genuinely needing some help. It can be your friend. And you got to get on the phone and come and tell somebody else that what you had to do for them to help them and to pull them along the way. Don't do that either. Let's be helpers one to another. Let's be genuine to one another. Let's be a resource. Let's be a friend. Let's be open. Let's be a good listener. Let's be supportive. Let's take this what has happened and learn from it. And if you say, well, what I'm gonna learn from it? If you don't learn nothing else, learn to not do bad stuff. If you don't learn nothing else, understand and know that whatever crap you got going on, you will be caught. If you don't learn nothing else, learn and understand and know that giants do fall. You can never get too big. You can never get too large and too big that you can't be corrected. You can't never get that. So you might seem like you getting away with it. And you may get away with it to the grave, but guess what? Judgment day is coming. You will be caught. So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with me today. I thank you for taking the time to listen. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in to Conversation with the Martin Girl. Leave a comment if you want to support. There's a support tab that you can support. Conversation with the Martin Girl. I greatly appreciate it. You can always go to my website, Martin Girl Movement. Leave me a comment, subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you and talking with you again. Thank you.